Hi, I'm with Bruce Taylor of Tohu Wines, New Zealand, and there's a bit of a sort of scene of destruction behind us as we've tasted all sorts of wines today. But I've lined up a range of wines from the Tohu winery. We're just going to talk about a few of them. But Bruce, to begin with, what I'd just like you to do is tell me a little bit about the history of the Tohu winery, because I think it's quite interesting.
Sure, yeah. I guess we'll be renowned for being, I suppose, the first Māori-owned, Maori-owned winery in New Zealand. So that started back in '98, where a few tribes, I guess 3 tribes, if you like, from around New Zealand got together and decided to plant some vines and start getting into the wine industry. Our owners have a lot of different businesses, but they also wanted
So this was their decision, it wasn't sort of inspired by doing the right thing, it was their decision?
Yeah, kind of inspired by social responsibility, I suppose. They're trying to put things back into the local community, and if you're looking at the top of the South Island in New Zealand, there's obviously not a hell of a lot going on, but there's a lot of grapes going into the ground, especially 10 years ago. So so they were very driven by that. And there's also a big philosophy for food and beverage as well. So our owners are into other kind of food companies. They grow mussels and crayfish and all that kind of stuff. So
it's obviously been quite a success. And Tohu is the name of the brand as such, isn't it?
Sure.
But then you've got Kono, which is the sort of
So Kono is also
introductory level.
Yeah, it is. It's the more. There's basically only a Sauvignon Blanc in the Kono.
Okay.
So under Tohu we do.
And only the two.
That's right. Yeah.
Two names.
That's exactly right. And so we also have green lip mussels, which I'm not sure you get in the UK, but certainly lots of places around the world which come under the Kono label. So I think they saw that as the classic kind of food and wine pairing, I suppose, with Sauvignon Blanc and green lip mussels.
Well, you've got the range of Pinot Gris, the Kono. An unoaked Chardonnay and a Sauvignon. Perhaps we should do that tomorrow. And then a couple of Pinots. At the moment, we stock the Kono, the Sauvignon, and the Chardonnay.
Sure.
So what I'd like to do is just talk through these wines with you.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the wine. And this is a good value entry level New Zealand wine. And it's something that's worked very well for us actually here. And it's on a number of restaurant lists. It hits the right balance. I mean, we're a little concerned at the moment about New Zealand because there is this danger that you're going the Australian route, and that some people are selling an awful lot of bulk juice to the supermarkets, who are bottling it and selling it at under a fiver, and the quality is very different. And I just feel that New Zealand really, polite way, absolutely. I just feel New Zealand really should try and keep its standards high, because that's been the secret of its success, and why they're going that route, I just fail to understand.
I guess it's very much a product of a large vintage in 2008. So a few producers kind of got caught out, whereas before that people were very much selling their Sauvignon Blancs, and there was a massive demand, and the supply just was not there. Because you have to remember, with New Zealand, we're very small.
That's right.
I think all of New Zealand production is about 260,000 tonnes, which is, to put it in perspective, it's essentially what Australia believes they have in surplus at the moment.
It's actually quite interesting because Hugh Johnson, the famous wine writer who has his book, the Hugh Johnson Wine Atlas, which you will know, I think it's in 1985. He has a section of sort of Australia and New Zealand, and he talks about Australia. Then in New Zealand, he has something which just says, any wine grown in this region is purely of local significance. It's amazing how the wine trade in New Zealand has improved. But it is, yes, of course, it's still a very small production compared with worldwide, globally. But yet, I think anyone with a discerning palate feels that New Zealand produces some wonderful wine, and I'm a great fan of New Zealand wine. So so this is Marlborough, of course. So we're in the top of the North Island.
South Island.
Top of the South Island. What am I saying? Top of the South Island. I'm well aware of that. So the top of the South Island, and of course the most famous region for Sauvignon.
Certainly.
So this wine, how would you describe this wine?
I guess I would see this as pretty classic kind of Marlborough setting. So production-wise, it's a blend of different vineyards, of company-owned vineyards from around Marlborough. So you kind of see
Is it younger vines?
No, not necessarily.
No?
Well, I mean, I guess it's all relative. And in New Zealand, they're all young vines. There's very little.
Well, presumably, you've got a more superior wine here, the Tohu, which we're about to taste, and presumably anything with a bit more maturity or complexity will go into that blend.
That's right. And I guess with the Tohu, we're trying to we're trying to forge a single vineyard as well, and really trying to express which we feel is our kind of showcase vineyard, which is in Awatere Valley, which is like a sub-region of Marlborough, I suppose. So the Kono is more a blend of the different regions of Marlborough, because I mean, I guess to the world you see Marlborough as one area, but it's actually various different valleys, and they all have different kind of characteristics. So I guess in your Kono you're seeing more of a blend of that tropical and the herbaceous and the mineral.
And you're trying to get a consistent style over the years.
Yeah. And you're trying to make a very, I guess, a very drinkable and a kind of approachable style of wine as well.
Which is exactly what it is. I mean, we're not going to try and pretend this is the most complex wine in the world, but it's...
Which is all Marlborough, so
it does everything that it says on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know exactly what you've got with that kind of wine. So.
Okay, well let's go on. You may want to just get rid of that. You better not show the audience that you're going to drink it. Third away, responsible drinking.
That's right.
So here we have the Tohu.
Yeah.
So what does Tohu mean?
So Tohu means...
Tohu, the Tohu.
Sure, I don't want to correct the pronunciation there. So Tohu would be the correct kind of pronunciation. If you're ever trying to pronounce Māori, the vowels are pretty much the same as Spanish. If anyone knows how to do Spanish, then it's more or less along those kind of same lines. And you're looking at each syllable is pronounced separately or individually, I suppose. So Tohu means, sorry to answer your question, means signature or mark, I guess. So it's I guess the rationale behind the thinking was that it was the kind of stamp of the company. So, and Kono, just for interest sake, means food basket. So it kind of ties in with the mussel company, which is part of it. So, so the Sauvignon Blanc is all off our Awatere vineyard. So I think as you'll see in the next few years, that kind of push towards that sub-regional recognition of different terroirs from around Marlborough. So you'll see that with more and more through different companies. So I guess we see our Awatere vineyard, which is very inland. It's 25 k's from the sea, which is relatively unusual in Marlborough. It's also up quite high. It's about 250 metres above sea level. So it's a tough place to grow grapes. It's very hard to to get decent crops and to run a commercial operation off it, which is great for me because I'm essentially sourcing fruit from a vineyard which doesn't have to be run as a commercial operation in as much as we're selling the grapes at X price per tonnes, and we don't have to chase a certain tonnage per hectare kind of thing. So we essentially target certain parts of the vineyard for the Tohu.
So
and the remainder is ending up in the Kono.
If you're talking to the public about this, how would you say this differs in taste to the Kono wine?
I guess in taste it's showing more pure Awatere characters, which I see as like a tomato leaf, like a crushed tomato leaf kind of character, a lot more minerality, which I think we're getting out of. We've got a clay subsoil up there, a certain kind of clay which you only find in Awatere Valley called the Papa's clay, which I think as my vines are now approaching 8 years, they're actually getting down into it and they're picking up that minerality. So you see more lemongrass, that crushed tomato leaf.
I really get the crushed tomato leaf. I grow tomatoes in my greenhouse every year. And I love the smell of that actually in the height of the summer.
And it's a very typical Awatere character.
Yeah.
Whereas the Kono, which is more kind of representative of all of Marlborough, will have the more kind of tropical and perhaps what people might expect more of typical Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, more kind of punchy tropical.
It's a lovely wine. It's a lovely wine. Let's move on to the Oak Chardonnay, which is the other wine that we do through your company. This is the new vintage, I think.
It is.
2009, and we've had the 2008, I believe, which is sort of much more developed. I mean, this is unoaked Chardonnay. Now, unoaked Chardonnay is the trendy thing to have. People don't like oak in Chardonnay, partly because there's so much cheap Australian rubbish which has come out, which is over-oaked and adulterated and whatever. But people have moved away from oak in Chardonnay unless it's extremely good quality and well balanced. This is unoaked. It's a good selling point, this unoaked business, but this is very, very light compared with the wine we had last year. Now that's just simply because it's presumably only recently been bottled, and it hasn't had a development in the bottle.
No, that'd be a fair comment.
But it's a lovely, light, crisp wine, and actually even since we opened it about an hour ago, it seems to have developed a little bit more on the nose.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
So this comes out of the main valley in Marlborough, the Wairau Valley. So it comes off it's the only fruit that Tohu buys off a contract grower. So a guy who is also called Bruce, lucky guy that he is.
So it's not embarrassed having a name called Bruce in New Zealand. We always think Bruce is an Australian.
A It's a very common name for sheepdogs in New Zealand, so I've always been kind of like quite obedient. I guess
Are you married?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I have a very long-term girlfriend.
I'm sure you make a wonderful husband if you're going to be obedient.
I'm not so sure my girlfriend would agree with it. But anyway, I've got a dog that's very disobedient, so I didn't call him Bruce. I called him Sam. So full male lactic ferment in that. So I guess you're trying to build a bit of body into the wine by putting it through NLF and kind of get that texture and stuff into it as well, which I think you need to do with an oak Chardonnay. You run the risk otherwise of it looking like a very bland, I suppose, for want of a better word, wine without any particular characteristics. So we're trying to capture that fruit and get a bit of texture from male lactic and a bit of lee stirring as well that happens in the tank, but all through stainless steel, obviously, so nothing going into oak.
It sort of reminds me quite a lot of the Southern Burgundian Chardonnays, actually, the sort of Saint-Marins and Macon Filet, Macon Clissé, those sort of things. They're very, very similar. And actually, to be fair, similar value as well. You know, we're talking about around the £10 mark, aren't we? Which does equate. But that's a lovely wine, very clean. That's what I like about it. Very clean, very fresh. And as I say, another year, I think it'll just develop a little bit, which won't do any harm at all.
Very consistent wine for us too. And Chardonnay, I think, in Marlborough is, I guess, as everyone is faced with the Sauvignon Blanc issues of the day, that everyone is starting to look at different varieties and where the industry can go from here as well. So,
because you've got Pinot Gris, which we tried, but we're not going to talk about. It's not currently on our list. And a couple of Pinots, which were very good. What other grape varieties are you?
We grow a bit of Riesling as well.
Right.
Yeah, there's quite a few other companies are growing some different things down there.
You're not exporting Riesling though, are you?
No, not as such. Not to you guys.
No, okay.
Not
exporting.
Riesling's a very small production for us, so it sells easily within New Zealand, and it's only in New Zealand.
Anything odd like Albarino or anything being grown?
There's a little bit of Albarino being planted, a little bit of Gruner Veltliner going in the ground.
Is it? That's a great Austrian grape, of course.
Yeah, a little bit of Viognier, some people do in like hotter places down there.
We tasted some wonderful Viognier the other day. Hans Viognier?
Oh yeah, Hans Herzog, was it?
Do you know, it was down in London at the sit tasting.
But
it was a beautiful, rich, powerful Viognier.
You have to have very specific
very hard to
sites
sell, but my God, what a good wine.
And it's a very site thing as well for us. I don't think there's no future for us in those kind of hotter climate white wines, I guess, in Marlborough, because our vineyards are sitting in the very fringes of what's possible to grow grapes there. And the reds, just Pinot, presumably? Just Pinot and Marlborough, There's quite a push, and I'd like to see us probably do it in the future, is to get a bit of Syrah underground there. So some people are, again, in hotter sites. If you can get a nice hot site with a bit of a stone in your soil and get your cordon down low and stuff, people are getting some very good Syrahs out of there. I think there's a bit of, I'm not sure if it's in the press over here so much, but there's certainly a bit of push at home for Syrahs out of the North Island, out of the Gimlet Gravels area in Hawke's Bay. And there's a few producers in Marlborough starting to get into it now.
Tomat, one of the famous ones.
And the Craigie ranges.
Who also does Gamay as well, doesn't he? Gamay as well.
He does,
Anyway, look, Mark, Bruce, it's been fantastic tasting. Thanks very much for sharing the information with our viewers. And cheers. Have a good trip to the UK.
Thank you very much.